At the age of 22, I was working on Wall Street. I was making six figures, overpaid, and I still quit. In today's video, I will share with you an unfiltered point of view on how to get a job on Wall Street and also why I ended up quitting. Here's a little bit of background on my story. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I went to Ohio State University. Yes, the Ohio State University. And throughout high school and throughout college, I was a power seller on eBay. So I would sell clothes, instruments, phones, Xboxes, game consoles, etc. to make money to pay for my living. And when I took my first economics class in college, I realized I had already understood supply and demand, and I had been doing these things on my own. So I ended up getting my degree in economics from Ohio State. As I was getting my degree, I had to think to myself, what's the best possible job I can get with the economics degree? And after some research, I realized it was working in New York in finance as an investment banker. So I turned my entire life upside down just so I could make that dream come true. And of course, if you're going to be an investment banker and you're going to work in finance, you have to work. Now, to me, there are 5 reasons why anyone will work on Wall Street. Number 1 is the money. Let's be real, folks. 22, making 6 figures, being overpaid is pretty important to someone who may have not come from money. So being able to, at the flick of a switch, day one, started to make more money potentially than your parents or anyone in your family has made is a big deal. Number 2 is location. New York City. Man, it is the mecca of the entire world. The most important city in the world is New York. And the most important industry, arguably, in New York is finance. If you can be successful in New York, you can be successful anywhere. Number 3 is the network. I had the opportunity to train with well over 600 people who were all becoming an analyst or an associate when I was at Bank of America Merrill Lynch. Now, if you think about like business schools and all these other different things, a lot of business schools aren't even over 500 people. So I had a chance to train with folks from Brazil, from Singapore, from Europe, from other places all over the world, and they became my network. And still to this day, I still work with those folks, do investments, use them for research and diligence when I'm looking at opportunities. It's just been a great opportunity to have such a vast network. Number 4 is the skill set. Not only do you get the analytical skills of understanding how to research, how to do diligence, how to create PowerPoint presentations, you also understand the soft skills. How do you manage up? How do you, as you start to grow in your career, how do you manage down? How do you become a leader? How do you build a personal brand? How do you interact in the boardroom? How do you interact outside of the boardroom? All those things you learn when you're in investment banking. Number 5 is exit opportunities. Doing investment banking is one of the hardest things you will ever do. You're working 80, 90, 100 plus hours some weeks. There is nothing off limits when you work in investment banking. You are on call 24/7. Being able to work under that extreme of a pressure means that any job that you have after investment banking is going to be a walk in the park. And anyone who's looking at you, whether you're going further into finance and like private equity, whether going into business school, whether going into tech or entrepreneurship, people will give you an amazing stamp of approval because you worked in investment banking at one of the top banks in New York City. Okay, we're gonna go into the how. Let's start off with the resume. My opinion on a resume, you keep it very simple. In your resume, you have professional experience, educational experience, and the other extracurriculars and activities. Your job to show in professional experience that you have done something that is related to the industry you're going after. If I'm in investment banking, I want to show that I worked at something in private wealth, something in finance, something in accounting as a previous internship or internship during school. And then all the words to start every single sentence should be an action verb, right? I have perform, I have coordinate, I have construct, I have all these different very provocative action verbs of what I did. And then whenever you can, you want to quantify why what you did was important. Or if you're in the education standpoint, you want to quantify why you're special. You might be one of 10 people chosen for a scholarship, or you might have been ranked 2 out of 1,000 in your class. You want to help folks understand why you are special and why you are so unique. So the next step is code emails. You're going to code email 3 people. You will cold email folks who are alumni of your university. You're going to cold email folks who are in HR at the prospective bank that you're looking at. And third, you want to email folks who are at your current school who have interned or worked at the company that you want to work at. And what you do in those is you keep it short and simple. You have a subject line announcing who you are, Brandon Bryant, Ohio State student, maybe. Or it might be something like Brandon Bryant, interested in investment banking. Have a strong call out in your subject line. A fun trick here is that you can actually use ChatGPT to try to come up with the most interesting subject line, and you can just share 2 or 3 that you're thinking about, and then you tell them to give you 20. And you choose the best out of all of those. You could do the same with your blurb as well. So in the body email, you keep it super high level. Identify who you are. I'm Brandon Bryant. Identify a little bit of your background just to make some sense. I interned in finance before at JP Morgan, looking forward to move from finance to investment banking, and then go for the ask. I saw that you were an alumni of Ohio State and work in finance. Would love to learn more about your past and experience. Or it could have been like one of those students who are currently, I saw that you interned last year at Goldman Sachs. Would love to learn more. I'm applying for the new Goldman Sachs. And so make something that's short and crisp. The other thing about cold emails, you have to follow up. Now in Google or any of your emails that you might use, you can just set up auto reminder. So you can send an email once every 3 or 4 weeks just to follow up and check in with these folks. All right, next one is to the interview. You have cold email either HR, an alumni, or someone who's currently at your school and you've applied for an internship or a full-time job. And now you are going into the interview. In the interview, there's just like a few sections. There's like a technical session, right? Where people might ask you really hard questions. For investment banking, they might ask, walk me through a DCF or walk me through a cash flow statement or assets and liabilities, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. I think where you really win is the behavioral questions where they ask you about when's the time that you solved a problem? What's a weakness that you are working on for development? Those questions are the places where you can really blow it out the water. Always talk about your weakness as a place of development. You can say a place that I'm working on for development is storytelling. I'm actually signed up for 2 storytelling classes at college. I'm also part of a storytelling community for public speaking, and these have really helped me to start articulating and using better vocabulary, et cetera, right? This makes you look like you're in a much better light to the person who's interviewing you. The other last piece is like have fun interests. If you could be a leader of an organization that has nothing to do with finance, especially if you're looking at finance, etc., that'll be great, right? You might be, for me, I played club basketball at Ohio State. So I was like one of the team captains for club basketball. Maybe you were in some other, like the debate or student government or these things. Have really interesting, unique interests so that you can stick out when people are trying to remember you after they've interviewed 100 people in one day. And the last part about interviewing, people want to just see if you can pass an airplane test. Would they want to work and sit next to you for hours and hours and hours on a day? Will you bore them or will you ignore them? Or will you help improve the environment that they're in? And here I want to talk about how do you become a top performer once you work on Wall Street, once you have the job. Number 1 is over communication. You have to over communicate exactly what you're doing. The other piece is clear deadlines and clear expectations. So if you're able to over communicate with your boss and all these other different people, you're able to understand the clear expectation that people have and the clear deadline, you should be performing pretty well. Number 2 here is you want to think about anything that takes something off the plate of your boss. Your job is to make sure that your boss can get home 30 minutes earlier. They can leave the job 30 minutes earlier, or they don't have to worry about one more thing on their plate. So if you see that they always do this type of action, or they always use this type of framework for an investment or a deal, go help them do that and take it off their plate. And the third thing to think about here is the rating system. You're typically rated between 1 and 5. If you get a 3, that means you are performing. You get a 4, that means you're performing 1 year ahead of where you're supposed to be. So if you're a first year analyst, you're performing at the level of a second year analyst. And now if you get a 5, then that means you're performing 2 years ahead of yourself. That means you're probably going to get top bonus. And just for a simplistic way, bonus is anywhere between 50 to almost 150% of your regular salary. So if you're making $100,000 at 22 and you get a 5 ranking, your bonus might be $100,000 to $150,000. So it is good to understand how you are rated as a top performer. Now on to why I ended up quitting. This is definitely something that's personal to me. As I got into investment banking and I spent the 6 weeks in training with those other 600 people, I really realized that banking probably wasn't going to be long term for me, but I understood the value of having investment banking on my resume and having those skill sets and being able to live in that really condensed sprint environment, working 80 to 100 plus hours a week. During my second year of investment banking, I spent a lot of my time working on my exit opportunities. I knew I wasn't going to go into private equity. I knew I wasn't going to business school. And so I had to think back to myself, when was the last time that I did anything really productive, made some money, and I enjoyed it? And that was when I was back on campus at Ohio State running a suit shop, of all things. I was the first employee to run a suit shop, and that suit shop was right on campus. And I basically sewed to students who were getting their first suit for internships, for full-time jobs, or even for graduation. And that was fun to me. I used to wake up and enjoy being able to get paid $200 every 2 weeks just to tell people about fashion and things of that nature. And so I knew I wasn't going to leave Wall Street and just go run a suit shop. But that's when social media was recently taken off in 2013, 2014. So I started a blog that was talking about fashion from a person who worked on Wall Street point of view. I called it Wall Street Paper. And within 1 year, Wall Street Paper grew immensely. I basically had a custom tailor in New York, and I put 60 to 70 of my colleagues into my custom tailor. And after that, I started getting clothes for free. And so after I started getting clothes for free, I went from just the blues and grays of suiting that people were on Wall Street to checks, stripes, browns, burgundies, greens, etc. And then more and more people kept asking me, where am I getting these clothes from? And so as I started blogging, I started shooting content on Instagram, and it was off to the races. And it got to the point where brands and companies, etc., were reaching out to me, asking to pay me to promote their content, to promote their products and items, and to even send me to go travel places. And that led to me being able to quit my 6-figure job where I was overpaid and to go work for myself as a content creator. And the most full circle moment was when I got the call from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, where I used to work, that they wanted to work with me as a content creator. And let me tell you, I made more money being paid by Bank of America as a content creator than I made for almost 3 years, including my bonuses, as an employee of Bank of America. And that was an eye-opening moment for me, that we are all bigger than the institutions that we work with. And so if there's any takeaway for you today, it's definitely go and do hard things every day and go get a skill set. Go understand the exit opportunities, go build your network, but realize you will never be ready fully to leave that establishment. You have to jump, you have to take a risk, and you might also have one of these full circle moments. Now, whether you work on Wall Street or you work in another industry, you have to understand how to create your first savings plan. Make sure you check out my latest video talking about how to save your first $10,000.